Hi there. I am Connie Fuchsa with Foote Title Group, where we know how overwhelming and stressful the home buying process can be. And it is our mission and passion to make that simple for you, make it as understandable as we possibly can, and to protect you and that home after you walk away from the closing table. So today, this is our first live broadcast. So thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully it all goes well and you get a lot of good information out of it. I'm really looking forward to talking to you and interacting with you. Today I thought I would talk about one of the things that I get all the time are questions about what are the 5 most common questions you get for closing. So there's a lot of things that happen and go into the closing, but you're so busy running around trying to get everything together, answering questions for your realtor and your lender, and sometimes when you get ready to get to the closing table because you're getting ready to move and get your packers ready and set up your cable and set up your mail and your phone and all of those things, oh my gosh, we say, goodness, what am I going to do? How do I know the answers to some of these things and the last minute questions that you have about closing? So that's what I wanted to talk about today is what some of those last minute questions are, the 5 most common questions I get. And I'd love some interaction. If you want to talk to me about things while we're sitting here talking, I'd be happy to help you out. So the first question I always get is, how do I know how much to bring to closing? Well, that is an interesting question. And one of the things that we do, one of our jobs is to pull all of the numbers together from all the different facets that go into this. So you have all these different moving parts when you're buying or selling a home. And so we pull all of those numbers together. And sometimes it goes down to the last minute. Sometimes it's a couple of days before. So sometimes it's a little hard to judge exactly when I'll have an exact number on those things because there's so many pieces that go into it. So your lender gives us figures on all the things that you agreed to on your loan. So the charges and the things that you're responsible for there. We review your contract hey, Dorsey, hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for joining in. So then we go through your real estate contract and we look at that and try to make sure we pull together all of the numbers and information there that you agreed to when you originally wrote your contract and decided to purchase that property. So then we also add in all of the costs for any inspections or any things that need to be paid for. If you had a house location survey done or even a boundary line survey. Hey, Jeff, thanks so much for tuning in. Happy to have you. All of the costs that you need to be able to purchase that home, we pull all of that together. So your settlement costs, the cost that the county charges you to record the documents, any property taxes that may be due. And on the seller side, we have a lot of things that we got to pull together too. Any loans that they need to be paid off, anyone that they owe to sell that property, and then the things that need to be taken care of in order for them to sell that property. There's some costs involved with some of those things as well. So sometimes getting those numbers together takes a little bit of time, and there's so many different facets and people that contribute to what those numbers look like that sometimes we don't have those until the very last minute. So if you're purchasing, what we always recommend is your lender always has a really good number, what that's going to look like. And usually it's pretty close. Unfortunately, because of a lot of fraud issues now, we don't take personal checks at closing unless they're under $500. So what we always recommend is that you get a really good estimate from your loan person, and they are professionals. They know who to get the information from and how to get that number pretty close for you. And go ahead and get your wired funds that you're going to be sending for closing for the number that they give you. That way you're not stressed out till the last minute trying to figure out what that looks like. And then anything that needs to be settled up at closing, you can write a personal check for that, and we can get that settled. So that's how we come up with the numbers for closing, and that was one of the first most common questions that I get. Number 2 is, what do I bring? What do I have to bring to closing? Well, of course, you have to bring you, and you have to bring anybody that is on the loan, that's going to be on the loan, because they're going to be signing some documents. If you're on the seller side, anybody that has an ownership interest in that property needs to be at closing to sign some documents, unless you've made other arrangements with us to be able to do that. So, hey, Pam, thanks so much for joining in. Happy to have you. People that you need to have at closing. Hi, Melanie. Thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate the support and everybody tuning in. So we're talking about right now what we need to bring to closing. Hey, Madison. So happy to have you. Thanks for tuning in. So what do you need to bring to closing? So any people that are going to be involved in the transaction need to be there. So, and if you, for some reason somebody can't be there, we need to make some arrangements to get that worked out. Government issued picture ID. So I say government issue because in the 30 years I've been doing this, the funny thing is I have people bring all kinds of IDs. I had somebody bring their BJ's card one time. I know, crazy. Well, it happens because people don't understand. No one knew, no one told them exactly what that needs to be. So a driver's license, a government issued picture ID. If you don't drive, more than likely you have an identification card that you have from the Motor Vehicles Group. So a government issued picture ID has to be presented in order for us to verify that the people that are signing the documents are the right people. Any funds that you needed for closing. On the sell side, sometimes that happens too, so you may need to bring those funds with you. The other thing is if the lender required, on the purchasing side, if the lender required any last minute documents, sometimes they require us to collect some things from you, and they'll tell you in advance you need to bring those to closing, so make sure you bring those. If you're using a power of attorney for someone, which we can talk about in another broadcast or I can answer questions about later, but we need that original power of attorney because we have to record that original power of attorney in the land records with the documents that you're signing. Otherwise, those documents aren't valid. So we'd need that original and we'd collect that from you and then get it back to you once it's recorded. So those are some of the things you would need at closing. Next, what happens at closing? Well, at closing, that is where you actually sit down and we go through all of those documents that you need to sign to finalize everything so you can get those keys or give those keys and get your check if you're on the seller's side. So you're going to actually come into our office or we actually travel to closings, to everywhere for people for closings in the 2 states that we do closings for. So we would actually travel to you or you come to our office at the designated time that everybody agreed to, and we would have a packet full of documents that need to be taken care of. And then we would go through those and we explain those to you. So different people have different levels of what they want to know about that. So sometimes we have people who have done this a lot of times and they know what most of the documents are because a lot of them are kind of generic and you'll see over and over again. But some of them are very specific to the new loan or the property that you're buying. Either way, we go through all of those things with you, both on the sales side and the purchase side, and explain those documents to you, as much information as you want and as you need based on what those documents are. So we'll go through all of that. Closing usually takes about an hour, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. We try to get you as much information as we can before you get there because you're sitting at the table with a bunch of other people and you're talking about all these other things. You're excited about moving, whether you're on the buyer or the sales side. You're excited about the situation. You want to talk about the house. You want to talk about a lot of other things that are going on. So we try to provide you some documents before closing to get you as much information as possible. So you're not sitting there in that fishbowl of confusion and trying to absorb all the information. Of course, we're always available after closing if you have any questions about that afterwards. But usually closing takes about an hour and we go through all of those documents with you. And once it's all done, then we, depending on the state, different states have different rules about how the funds are dispersed. So that would depend on which area we're doing it in. So, and the last question that I get most commonly is who should be there? And we've talked a little bit about that. But if you let's say you're purchasing a property and you're a first-time home buyer and your parents are signing with you, because that happens a lot, your parents need to be there because they're going to be signing some documents, even though they're not going to be living in the house or maybe they're not an ownership interest in your mind, they still are going to be signing some documents securing that loan. So you definitely need to have them there. If you are on the sales side and you didn't, maybe one of the people that was originally an owner passed away, then we need to identify and address that issue before you actually come to closing. But anybody who has an ownership interest in that property has to either be at that closing or we have to make some arrangements to get them sign those documents because all of those people need to be signing off on them. So hopefully that gives you some good information, a start on what we do and what some of those just basic generic questions are about closing. We are always here to help you with any of your questions. And in fact, if you happen to be recently moved to or are moving into the King George, Virginia area, we have a big event coming up this Saturday, and we're so excited about it. We are sponsoring, along with the King George YMCA, a event for all of those newcomers to King George that is called Make Yourself at Home in King George. And we've actually pulled together a lot of the community resources to give you information. They're going to be there talking about things that they have to offer. The police department, the fire department, the Animal Rescue League, the school system, the Parks and Rec. We have social services. We have the Journal newspaper. So a lot of the resources that you may need in that community if you're new to it, or if you're not new to it and maybe you're just not plugged into a lot of that stuff. We'll also have a CPR class and a self-defense class. And then we have a whole area for kids so that your kids can be playing and assisted while you walk around and talk to people and learn more about that community. So that is going to be this Saturday from 10 to noon at the King George YMCA. And we are so proud and excited to sponsor that and bring you all that good information. So if you know somebody that is moving to that area, you're thinking about moving to that area, or you'd like some more information about that area, please come out and see us. We really would love to talk to you. We have some resources to give you to take with you from that event. And we have a flyer on our Facebook, on all of our social media. If you contact any of my staff, our team members are willing to get, ready, willing, and able to get you any information about the event or any other questions or information that you need about closing. I thank you all so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me. And remember, Foote Title Group is always here to help you out because we understand the closing process can be overwhelming. And we know how tough that can be. And we are here to make your home closing process simple because your home closing should be the simple part. Thanks so much for being here. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. Have a great day, guys.